There is a type of tiredness that doesn't show on the body. It's the exhaustion of carrying a dream all by yourself. It isn't the fatigue of someone who simply worked hard. It is the silent weight of someone who tried again. And again. And again, with no one to watch. No one to correct the path. And no one to remind you who you are when your motivation vanishes. Imagine someone walking at night, holding an invisible backpack. On the outside, they look normal. On the inside, every step was as if they were carrying stones that no one else can see. That backpack is made of unkept promises, interrupted plans, and excited beginnings that died in silence. Maybe that person is you. How many times have you decided that now it will be different? That this time you will be more disciplined, more focused, more strong? How many mandas started with hope and ended with guilt? There is a lie that almost every adult carries without realizing it. The idea that, if you cannot maintain discipline alone, the problem is a lack of inner strength, lack of character, lack of determination. But what if that isn't true? What if the problem isn't you, but the fact that no one was made to win on battles in isolation? Willpower, when it is alone, is like a candle lit in the middle of a hurricane. It might be benzine for a few seconds, but the wind always wins. You don't have a because you are weak. You have a because you are trying to stand something too big without support. And maybe no one has ever explained that to you. It's a true joy to have you here. Before we move forward, I want to know, what part of the world are you watching from? Write it down in the comments below. And please, stay until the very end. Because what you are about to hear today will break the chains of procrastination in your life. To help you shield your mind and protect this peace, I've prepared something special for you. A 1-minute prayer to activate your purpose and pull you out of autopilot, starting right now. The link is pinned in the first comment. Click there, leave your like as a seal of this commitment, and subscribe to the channel so we can renew your mindset together, every single day. There is a myth deeply rooted in our culture, the myth of the lone wolf. From an early age, we are taught to admire those who win alone. Those who endure everything in silence. Those who depend on no one. Those who motivate themselves, every single day, like a perfectly adjusted emotional machine. But that isn't strength. That is romanticized isolation. The lone wolf is not the strongest in the forest. He is the most vulnerable. He hunts worse, he gets hurt more, and he lives less. The pack is not a symbol of weakness, it is a system of survival. And yet, when it comes to discipline, we insist on acting as if asking for support is a sign of failure. Have you ever noticed how most people feel ashamed of giving up? They don't say, this was too heavy to carry alone. They say, I am inconsistent. I have no discipline. Something is wrong with me. But no one asks, who was holding you up when the excitement ran out? Who reminded you of your purpose on the day you woke up with no energy? Who corrected you when you started sabotaging yourself without even noticing? Discipline does not die suddenly. It wears out. It wears out every time you have to be strong alone. Every time you make decisions while exhausted. Every time you negotiate with yourself in silence, and you lose. And the cruelest part of all this is that, from the outside, it looks like laziness. But on the inside, it is emotional exhaustion. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because they cannot sustain the doing alone for long enough. There is an invisible moment, just hours before giving up, where the mind begins to justify. Just for today. Tomorrow I'll go back. I deserve a break. And without someone to mirror you, to confront you with respect, to remind you of your commitment, the mind always wins. Because the mind, when it is alone, does not seek truth. It seeks comfort. Perhaps you've never stopped to think about this, but discipline is not an infinite internal resource. It is relational. It is born, it grows, and it is sustained in environments. Place an ordinary person in a strong environment, with clear standards, living references, and shared responsibility, and they transform. Place an extraordinary person in isolation, without mirrors, without support, without correction, and they break. This is not an opinion. It is human nature. And still, we keep insisting on the most expensive mistake, trying to win alone. The weight you feel is not a sign of incapacity. It is a sign that you are carrying something that was meant to be shared. There is a profound difference between self-discipline and self-sabotage disguised as independence. When you insist on doing everything alone, you are not being strong. You are depriving yourself of the strength that is born from connection. And that is exactly where almost no one goes. That is exactly where most people give up. Without ever discovering that there is a completely different way to sustain consistency, focus, and growth. A way that does not depend on daily motivation. A way that does not collapse when your emotions fluctuate. In the next part, you will understand why trying to be disciplined alone is not only inefficient, it is unnecessary. And how the idea of a mastermind changes everything you think you know about never quitting again. There is a specific moment when a person begins to doubt themselves. Not because they failed once, but because they failed many times, always in the exact same way. They promise consistency. They start strong. They feel powerful for a few days. And then, something slips. A habit. A decision. A commitment to themselves. And what hurts isn't the mistake itself. It is the repetition. Slowly, a dangerous internal narrative is born: I am not disciplined. I always stop halfway. I can't sustain anything. But this conclusion ignores an essential question that almost no one asks: who was with you when your mind began to waver? Because the human mind was not built to be its own judge all the time. It distorts. It negotiates. It protects itself from discomfort. Alone, the mind creates convincing excuses. In a group, it creates direction. Napoleon Hill observed this by studying hundreds of people considered successful. They weren't the most intelligent, nor the most talented, nor the most disciplined in the classic sense. They had something in common that almost never appears in motivational speeches. They didn't think alone for very long. When a person stays isolated inside their own head, they begin to confuse feelings with truth. Exhaustion becomes a sign to stop. Fear becomes intuition. Doubt becomes realism. And no one is there to question it. This is why self-discipline fails when it depends only on your emotional state of the day. Because emotions fluctuate. And when they fluctuate, your identity shakes with them. Most people try to stay firm using motivational quotes and raw willpower. But that is like trying to align a compass inside an unstable magnetic field. It never points north for very long. There is a silent relief when someone realizes they don't have to be the sole guardian of their own commitment. That they don't have to be the judge, the defendant, and the executioner all at once. This is where the idea of the mastermind begins to make sense, not as a mystical concept, but as a practical structure. A mastermind is an environment where ideas are refined, not protected. Where standards are maintained even when your will wavers. Where someone notices your drift before it turns into a surrender. When you verbalize a goal out loud, something changes. It stops living only in your imagination. It takes shape. It gains weight. It gains responsibility. And shared responsibility does not oppress, it sustains. Notice how you behave when no one is watching. Now, notice how it changes when you know someone is going to ask how it went. Not out of aggressive pressure, but out of presence. This is not weakness. This is applied emotional intelligence. Hill understood that the human mind works best in dialogue. When thoughts don't stay spinning in closed circles. True discipline is not born from rigidity. It is born from repeated clarity. And clarity is best maintained when it is shared. Perhaps you have spent years trying to fix your lack of consistency, when in reality, you were just trying to sustain something alone that was designed to be collective. Perhaps the question was never, why do I give up, but rather, why do I insist on walking without support? When that question enters, the guilt leaves. And in its place arises something more useful, discernment. The discernment to realize that the mind needs mirrors. That discipline needs structure. That consistency needs a field where mistakes don't turn into shame, but into adjustment. There is a massive difference between depending on people and growing with people. One is fragility. The other is strategy. And those who learn this stop fighting themselves, and finally begin to walk with more firmness, less weight, and a clarity that does not depend on the mood of the day. The silence that comes after this understanding is not empty. It is stable. It is the kind of silence that does not ask for strength, just continuity. When someone begins to experience this stability, something curious happens. Anxiety decreases. But not because the challenges have disappeared. It decreases because that person stops facing everything alone inside their own head. A huge part of emotional exhaustion doesn't come from the problem itself, but from the internal dialogue that repeats without challenge. Unquestioned thoughts become absolute truths. And absolute truths shape small decisions every single day. This is why environments shape behavior more than willpower ever could. You may have the best intentions in the world, but if you are surrounded by silence, distraction, and a lack of reference, your intention weakens. Not for lack of character, but for lack of structure. Napoleon Hill observed something essential: when two or more minds unite in harmony around a clear objective, a third force arises. It isn't magic. It is psychological synergy. When you hear someone else verbalizing a commitment, your own mind adjusts its standards. When someone shares clarity, your confusion fades. When someone maintains consistency, it redefines what you believe is possible. Think about how you learn best. It probably wasn't just by reading or listening, but by talking, testing ideas, making mistakes out loud, and receiving corrections. The human mind learns through interaction. The same is true for discipline. Discipline is not a fixed personality trait. It is a behavior trained in specific contexts. Change the context, and the behavior changes with it. Trying to become disciplined in isolation is like trying to learn a language without ever speaking to anyone. You might memorize the rules, but you will never develop fluency. There is another point that is almost never mentioned: people give up less when they feel they belong. Not just emotional belonging, but belonging to a standard. When you know you are part of something bigger than your mood of the day, the question changes. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this?" Instead, you ask, "Is this aligned with who I committed to be?" That shift in questioning is powerful. Discipline stops being a daily battle against yourself, and becomes a natural continuity of an agreement already made. Many people confuse autonomy with isolation. Autonomy is consciously choosing who to walk with. Isolation is pretending you don't need anyone. Hill never advocated for blind dependence. He advocated for conscious alignment. A healthy mastermind doesn't carry you, it sustains you while you walk. It doesn't think for you, it prevents you from getting lost in circular thoughts. It doesn't judge you for failing, it prevents you from giving up in silence. Notice how you react when someone believes in you consistently. Not in an exaggerated way, but in a stable way. This creates a psychological field where giving up becomes harder, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Clarity is underrated. But it is clarity that keeps decisions firm when emotions fluctuate. Most people don't need more motivation. They need less internal noise. And that noise decreases when the mind stops echoing alone. There is a profound shift when someone realizes they don't need to win the entire day. They only need to maintain enough direction until they reach the next point of support. Discipline stops being a test of endurance, and becomes a sustained flow. This explains why ordinary people, in well-structured environments, achieve results that seemed out of reach. Not because they became extraordinary overnight, but because they stopped fighting their own human nature. The human mind seeks coherence. When it finds external coherence, in people, routines, conversations, and patterns, it organizes itself from the inside out. And when that happens, something silent takes root. Consistency stops being a heroic effort, and becomes a natural consequence. There is no euphoria. There is no drama. There is only continuity. And continuity, when it finally happens, changes everything. In the beginning, this continuity seems almost too simple to be real. No grand peaks of excitement. No loud internal speeches. Just repeated steps, sustained by something that doesn't depend on your emotional state. This is where many people get confused. Because we were taught to associate progress with intensity. If it doesn't hurt, it feels like it doesn't count. If it doesn't require extreme sacrifice, it feels weak. But the truth is, almost everything that lasts a long time, is silent. Look at nature. Nothing grows in constant explosions. It grows in stable cycles. The discipline that lasts does not shout. It organizes itself. When a person stops trying to prove their strength all the time, there is energy left for something more important, direction. They begin to notice patterns. What works? What drains them? And what needs to be adjusted before it turns into abandonment? Here, a subtle but profound shift happens. Mistakes stop being signs of failure, and become information. This is only possible when there is a safe space to observe, to correct, and to follow through. Alone, a mistake feels like a personal attack. Within a structured field, it becomes data. The human mind learns fast when it isn't defending itself. But when it is isolated, it defends itself all the time. It justifies. It rationalizes. It shrinks its own dream just to relieve the tension. This is why so many people say they changed their goals, when in reality, they just got tired of sustaining the same dream alone. When there is support, the dream doesn't have to shrink to survive. There is something liberating about admitting, I don't need to trust my mood to trust my path. That sentence changes everything. You stop negotiating with yourself every day. Your decisions have already been made in a clearer state. The present you simply executes what the conscious past you organized. This reduces internal friction. And less friction means more consistency. Most people live in permanent internal conflict. One part wants to move forward, another part wants immediate comfort. Without structure, this dispute never ends. But when the environment is aligned, the struggle fades. Not because the desire for comfort disappears, but because it loses control of the steering wheel. You still feel the urge to stop. But you don't obey it automatically. Not out of rigidity, but out of clarity. This clarity doesn't appear out of nowhere. It is built in conversations, observations, and small, repeated adjustments. Those who grow with consistency rarely explain what they did differently in one sentence. There was no dramatic moment. There was only progressive alignment. And this alignment changes how a person sees themselves. You stop being someone undisciplined trying to get better. You become someone in process, sustained by intelligent decisions. This shift in identity is silent. But it is irreversible. When identity changes, effort decreases. Not because life gets easier, but because the mind stops sabotaging its own path. Discipline stops being a burden and becomes a natural extension of who you are becoming. And perhaps, this is the most ignored point of all. People don't fail for lack of willpower, but from an excess of self-demand in poor environments. Change the environment, and the will reorganizes itself. When this is understood, something inside grows quiet. The urgency fades. Anxiety gives way to a rare kind of confidence. Not that euphoric confidence that depends on immediate results, but the stable confidence of someone who knows they are no longer fighting against their own human system. The weight that once seemed inevitable begins to disappear. Not because the path got shorter, but because now, it is sustainable. And when something becomes sustainable, stopping is no longer a constant temptation. It becomes an option that simply no longer makes sense. To ensure you don't lose this focus, and to help you shield your mind from the noise of the world, I've left a special gift for you in the first pinned comment. A 1-minute prayer for the activation of your purpose. Click it now, leave your like if you accept this challenge to grow, and subscribe to become part of our community of daily renewal. Together, we will transform your mindset every single day. Now, let us go straight to the Word of God.